I am your host, George Miller, and we are getting rolling here as we are getting connected and going live. I want to share a little bit about how you can engage here. So I love it when you jump in directly on Zoom. You are welcome to jump in on Zoom, and I can take your questions directly that way. We can go back and forth. And if you don't want to do that, or if you're just listening in on YouTube Live or on LinkedIn Live, go ahead and type your questions into the comment section. That is a great way to communicate with me as you're getting going with that. When you type in a question, if I start responding to your question and you find that I'm not really on track or I'm going in a direction that you didn't want me to go, let me know. Reorient me, and I will do my best to stay on track with you. So you can type your questions into the comment section on YouTube Live, LinkedIn Live, or if you're really courageous and you really want to face some fear, you can jump in directly here on Zoom and you and I can engage that way. So that's a few ways to connect. Also, you're welcome to set up a one-to-one time with me. I will spend 15, 20 minutes with you, get to know you a little bit. And often I can help you get clarity about the direction that you're moving in your career. And we can also look at what a coaching relationship might be. So there's a link to that you can check out anytime today. And I'll probably share some more links with you as well. But I want to get us going into today's topic. Oh, and as I'm doing that, you do not have to stay on topic with your questions. So I'm going to be talking about fear and how we use this to develop ourselves. So, how fear is a catalyst for innovation, how being with my fear helps me develop new skills, helps me see what I want to do more of. Anyway, more of that. But if you've got a question, anything in your career, like resumes, interviewing, managing, purpose, happiness with what you're doing, all of that stuff, that's all fair game. I love taking any questions career related. And if you haven't been here before, well, you'll find out that I will tie it to EQ. I will tie it to soft skills and emotional intelligence, as that is at the heart of leadership development, of career development, of learning how to have more influence. So, as I'm looking at this today around using fear to propel me forward, so making friends with my fear, so being able to be a bold decision maker, being able to take on challenges does not require that I say goodbye to my fear, that I need to get over it. That is such a common misconception that people have. Is, people will contact me and say, I want more confidence. Yeah, I want to get over this fear I have of public speaking, of interviewing, and that approach, for some people, it works to a certain degree. But I want to invite you to look at fear as a catalyst for you to become more of who you can be. And I'll share a story about this, how I'm working this for myself. So I go into the ice water, and that's scary every single time. So I face that fear. I don't try to get over it. Well, I'm being totally honest. Um, I'm monitoring myself, because I could just make my body go in and not really be conscious. Um, and since I'm doing this practice, I'm wanting to experience that. So I'm choosing, okay, no, let myself feel afraid. Let me feel that, because as I allow myself to feel more of that fear, it starts to turn into aliveness and excitement. And then the cold water hitting my body is rejuvenating. So I could do it in a way that's like, okay, I'm just doing this. I'm gonna like get through it. And okay, great. I was in there for 5 minutes. Okay, good. Like I could do it that way. And I'm not gonna say that there's times where I kind of do it that way. But what I'm really seeking, the experience that I want is to have my whole body become more familiar with fear and anxiety so that it's not something that is stopping me, so that I'm used to it and that I even enjoy it. So going in and instead of trying to like keep it all together, like woo, like I'll make sounds that like help me integrate that fear, turning it into aliveness and having me enjoy the sensations instead of just gritting my teeth and trying to get through it. Now, think about how that could be such a metaphor for your life. So, this, ice water is easy. Living this way while relating to people who are so incredibly different from me, that's the real challenge. That is what I'm working on. So the ice water is just practice to be with human beings. That's what that is. So when we're talking about using fear and anxiety, leaning into fear and anxiety as a way to develop myself, as a way to connect more deeply with people, because the more that I allow myself to be with whatever the anxieties are, the more I'm allowing that information to process. I'm not resisting so many things. So I'll get to the next part of a story in a moment, but I want to check in with everybody where we are almost 10 minutes into this. And a reminder for anybody who's joining in, please type your questions into the comment section. What does this fear and ice water have to do with anything around career and leadership? So if you have questions, please put them in. That's every time I get a question from you, I feel afraid. Like, how am I going to respond to that? And so that anxiety that I feel when you are giving me a question is something I'm embracing. It's something I want to do. I'm freaking on a webinar in the middle of the day talking to whoever is listening in here. So it's like, that's a way that I'm choosing to be with anxiety right now and wanting to get questions so that I can experience that sensation of the anxiety of like, oh, what's this? And how do I respond? And it's an engaging process. So I don't think I ever talked about that one before, but I think that's true. So go ahead and type your questions into the comments section. You can ask anything about your career development, about what to do in like ridiculous times of transition, transformation. There's a lot of fear and scarcity and totally valid things to be afraid of happening in the world. And that's another point that I'll make, is that fear is an indicator of things that are actually dangerous. So like I want to pay attention to that. So if I'm in a meeting and I'm feeling afraid about the conversation, it's helpful for me to allow myself to feel that and say, what am I afraid of here? As I let myself be with that, I'm afraid that these two people talking are not really understanding each other, and that we're going to get to the end of this meeting and nothing will have really happened. Well, I feel afraid about inserting myself into this dynamic. And if this is the first time I'm doing it, I'm probably not going to do it perfectly. I'm probably going to make mistakes about how I do this. So, okay, but now it's worth the risk. Most of the time it's worth it. With that kind of thing, it's worth the risk. And you take a little risk. Hey, hey, Mushkaboo. Hey, buddy. You take a little risk. And as you do that, you are growing yourself. You might insert yourself into a meeting in a way that you have not before, and you might not do it well, and you might feel uncomfortable. But I think if you allow yourself to, and especially if you intend it, that I'm going to enjoy the fact that I did something different, that I took a risk, and I used my fear as a doorway to aliveness, as a doorway to connection, then that's where you really start to develop confidence. You develop confidence when you take risks and you master things you didn't know how to do before. So, send me any questions you've got about meetings that you've got coming up, career searches that you're doing, networking. That's a huge, huge one. I've only, in my 13 years of coaching, I think I can only think of less than 5 people who, when I was doing the initial consult with them, that were actually networking at the level I thought that people need to get their next job. And so I've talked to hundreds of people, maybe even a thousand, I don't know. So I've talked to a lot of people, and pretty much everybody avoids feeling their fear about connecting with other people. Pretty much everybody I know will spend a lot more time trying to perfect a resume and a cover letter. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, you got to do that. But I pretty much guarantee doesn't have to take you as long as it takes you. I mean, I know it's true for me. And there's all kinds of job ads that people will respond to that it's not going to get you the momentum, the leverage that's going to land you what you actually want. It's going to be your connections to people. I mean, not 100% of the time, but a lot of the time. And even if there's a job ad that you're responding to, you still want to connect with as many people there that you can. That's just going to increase your likelihood. That's going to increase the back and forth communication, the warming up to you. So anyway, any questions that you have, I think that one is a great example of where people resist feeling the discomfort of their own fear of rejection, fear of saying the wrong thing, that kind of thing, and just don't reach out and don't network enough. So I'm going to go back to the story about ice water and fear to really drive this point home. So I go in the coldest day I've been in yet. I mean, it was so cold that the water was freezing around me, and I had a new level of fear in the lake than I had ever had before. And I'm in there, and I'm one with this fear. I'm like one with the universe, and I can feel everything. And I planned ahead. I used my fear to anticipate all of my needs so that I could get out of the water safely and get dried off. Well, in that temperature, you don't dry off; it just freezes. But that I would be able to get clothes back on in pretty quickly. So I'm set up. I'm on my game, and I'm just riding that fear. And I'm like, whew, that aliveness is flowing through me, and I get my clothes back on, and then somebody with a camera says, well, what do you want to say to Chicago or something like that? And my consciousness fled. I completely fell off the wave of that fear and ran away from myself, psychologically speaking, emotionally. And I started talking, but I wasn't grounded. I wasn't really connected with myself. I just had this amazing experience of being with a lot of fear and just letting that happen. And then the fear of public speaking, the fear of talking to a camera, the fear of the unknown of that moment, I retreated. It would have been more accurate to say, oh my God, I'm like, I just did that, but I'm actually more afraid to talk to you. So that's what I mean about befriending fear. It's like a game that I'm playing moment to moment. And a lot of the time, I'm not on it. A lot of the time, I'm not one with my fear or whatever. But it's that the intention that I have that keeps me developing, keeps me engaged and learning new things, trying out new ways of being, and not just in a textbook kind of a way of, oh, I'm going to learn a new skill, but this much more expansive way of learning of oh wow, each moment is offering me an opportunity to be present with the anxiety of being alive. And a lot of the time, I'm going to choose to not be conscious of that, to not feel that aliveness. But overall, it's my intention to do more and more of it. So I look for that in things like webinars in the middle of the day, doing speaking events, coaching. Coaching is a big one. Coaching sessions are like 50 minutes of time in ice water where the client and I are experimenting with new ways of being, really looking at unaddressed emotions, emotions that have not been on one's consciousness and radar, and seeing how that impacts the dynamics in their relationships. People who struggle with their boss or manager or colleague, and it's been an issue for years, and they're like, if I could just not like dread the next encounter with this person, I mean, that would be a success, you know? And so we look at that, we get into that, and it requires being with discomfort. And I love that space. It's such a cool, creative space to be in. So, being with fear is not just about, I don't know, the adrenaline rush of ice water or skydiving or whatever. It can be this moment to moment thing. And that's really the point. Is looking at how I can face my fears in new ways. So we're coming up on halfway through today. So I want to say to anybody who is listening in, please set up a time to talk with me if you're wanting some guidance in your career, if you are having any relationship challenges, and I'd love to connect with you. So you can set up a one-to-one with me. And while you've got me live here, go ahead and type any questions into the comments section. Anything that you're working on. What concerns do you have? What's on your heart? What brought you here today that you wanted to learn more from me or learn more about yourself? What is it that you're curious about? Great, we're getting some questions here. So I just want to improve my speaking, my public speaking, since my role involves a lot of it. I guess I want to focus on storytelling. One question I have is, how do I structure my stories so they actually land with different audiences, like stakeholders, engineers, or clients? That's a great question. Okay, so you want to you want your story to relate to the people that you're talking to. So if you're talking to, say, engineers, you might have the story that you're sharing be about creating something, engineering something, putting something together, and how you worked that through. For stakeholders, same thing. You know, where was a time that you were making a decision on betting on somebody? You know, it doesn't have to be around a business, but just the concept. And clients, I'm not sure who your clients are, but tell you, keep me on track. Let me know if I'm helping you with what I'm sharing. So with storytelling, you want to include yourself in it, or a client that you've worked with, and have it match, you know, be something that your audience is going to relate to. And now let's dig in a little deeper. So you can tell a story and not really be present. I'll relate this to musicians. I'm a musician. I have seen so many shows that I'm pretty jaded at this point. And there are singers who are amazing performers. When I saw David Bowie, I mean, he's phenomenal. It's David Bowie, right? And yet, when my experience was that it wasn't like he was really there. And then I've seen performers who are not as famous or anything, but are like so present and raw in their expression. They might not be singing perfectly, but they're really there and they're connecting with the audience. Bruce Springsteen. I mean, well, he's amazing, but to give, you know, think about the differences there, about somebody who's really open and vulnerable and in touch with their feelings, and how that can connect with an entire stadium full of people. Bono from U2, he's another one. Marilyn Manson, he's another one. He actually has really good connection with the audience. Beck, not so much. So as you're looking at this for yourself, when you're sharing your story, you actually want to be feeling afraid. You want that anxiousness. And that's a cool thing about why, if you're sharing something personal, especially where you've made a mistake and it's like, it's a groaner, and it's like, oh man, I kind of like don't want to say this to anybody, but it really demonstrates the point that I'm trying to make. That is a fantastic way to do it, because it lets people know you're human, relate to you, and you're leading vulnerably. You're sharing a challenge that you had, mistakes that you made, and you're going to say that. So then, especially if it's a potential client, then you're communicating to them, hey, I have this level of authenticity where I share stuff that's vulnerable, and they pick up on that and they will share more vulnerably with you. So you're leading in that way. Okay, I see you're putting something in here. I feel like I either overshare details or I rush through because I'm nervous. Also, how do I sound more confident and natural without feeling like I'm performing? These are great questions. Thank you. So, okay, let's dive in on this one. All right. So pay attention here. I feel like I either overshare details. So feel like I overshare details. Let's get real accurate about the language here. Feel like is messy language. It would be, my hunch is it's more accurate and appropriate to say, I think I overshare details and I feel afraid about that. And I overshare details as a way to avoid the discomfort that I have while I'm talking in front of a group of people. How's that? Because that tends to be in interviewing, in public speaking, when someone's giving a lot of details and information, it tends to be their moment to moment strategy to avoid the discomfort that they are feeling, to avoid the vulnerability of being in front of a room full of people or being in front of a camera that's broadcasting. When people speak quickly, so on to your next point, I rush through. See, that's an indicator of deep mistaken beliefs. And I know this one because I, to this day, when I'm in coaching supervision, so I get a lot of coaching supervision once a week, sometimes twice a week, where I'm talking about challenges that I'm having with clients, where I'm airing my dirty laundry. I just want to get through the thing because I'm really uncomfortable and I don't want to be doing it, even though I want to be doing it because I know it's good for me. It's maintenance for me as a coach. It's going to help me do my job well. But, so I watch it like, geez, I just want to talk faster to get through this. So you can see right now I'm doing what I'm sharing about, telling a story about myself that I'm hoping relates to you, about where I want to avoid my own discomfort. And so I'll speak faster, I'll rush through it. So the thing to do is to be aware of it and to practice. When you're doing speaking, you want to practice. And we've got so many cameras and voice recording things now, it's super easy to do. So you want to record yourself and listen back to yourself, and you'll probably hate it. You will probably hear your voice and see yourself on the screen and be like, oh, I know I do. There's so many groaners in that. And it will help you. And the ultimate goal is that you eventually get to the spot where you're enjoying yourself, where it's like, yeah, I'm a human and I make mistakes while I'm talking and I'm kind of embarrassed about it. But it's not a big deal. And I'm going to allow myself to enjoy the sound of my own voice. I'm going to allow myself to enjoy the anxiety that's running up and down through my body. This is excitement. Some people jump out of airplanes to get it. I happen to be doing it right now while I'm talking on this webinar. Cool. And so there's kind of a grounding that you will get with it, but it takes practice. Okay. So you get confidence by leaning into the discomfort and practicing. So, oh yeah, there, I'm addressing the next part of sounding more confident and natural without feeling like I'm performing. So feeling like I'm performing, there's that feeling word again. That's always an indicator to me. So feeling like I'm performing, that what I think means is that you have some deep mistaken beliefs that you are inauthentic, that you're not quite real, that you don't quite exist, that you don't really matter, that you're not enough, that kind of thing. So if I'm feeling like I'm performing, that's what I think is going on for you as you are sharing and judging yourself and saying, oh my God, I'm so inauthentic. The way to get more authentic, or for the feeling to turn from one of self-criticism and hurt and fear and shame, is to practice and to get more comfortable with feeling fear, hurt, and sadness, and even some aggression, some anger sometimes. That will ultimately help you open up to more joy. So when right now I'm performing, I'm doing a service. This is my job. There's nothing wrong with performing. Musicians, they're performing. What I'm asking myself is, am I enjoying my performance? Am I doing well? Am I getting my point across? It's okay that I'm performing. So I think you've got some pretty deep mistaken beliefs about yourself in relationship to people. Okay. I'm taking some risks with you here. Let me know. Oh, you've got another one in here. So if oversharing is my strategy to avoid discomfort, what would it look like to lean into the discomfort instead? Ooh, great question. Okay. So what you're going to do, you are going to, instead of oversharing and giving a bunch of details that your audience might not be paying attention to, you're going to practice the power of silence. You're going to make a statement. You're going to share a piece of information about whatever it is that you're selling or providing, or whatever it is that you're doing. And then you're going to close those lips. Be with that anxiety running up and down through your chest. And look at your audience and see how they're responding. And you may even ask a question. So now back to the point about storytelling, I'm going to share a story that demonstrates what you just asked about. How do I lean into the discomfort instead? So a client of mine, she came in because her boss always had her do the presentations. She's very good at it. She hated doing it. She would dread those presentations for months and, would have trouble sleeping about it. And she was honestly considering moving in a different direction, even though she was doing well in her career. So she didn't want to give up all the hard work she'd done there and pivot. She just didn't want to feel so upset about the speaking that she was doing. So she worked with this, befriended her fear more, which requires you to feel it. That's the price that you pay. You're going to experience more discomfort. But as she got better at being with that discomfort, she goes into the C-suite, and before she even begins the presentation, she recognizes how afraid she feels. And she's done some deep work at this point and is able to tie it emotionally back to how much she had to take care of her younger siblings and her parents. So she didn't have much of a childhood, and all of her skills were developed on a huge amount of scarcity. So there wasn't any joy in it. And she could be a great presenter, but she did not have fun doing it until she allowed herself to be with the fears and processed trauma from the past. Then she could recognize in that moment, oh my goodness, I'm feeling afraid. And I look over at the VP and he looks concerned. He's got a furrowed brow. In the past, I would have used this moment to launch into my presentation, which I would do so well because I do everything so well. I'd hit all the right points. But in that moment, she said, wait a minute. No, I've been practicing with George. And she says, sir, do you have any concerns? And that was the start of the presentation. Up to that day, the best presentation she'd ever done. Went off script and started a conversation with the VP. And pretty soon, the whole room is engaged. And all she's doing is fielding questions about the product that she knows so well because she studied it a whole bunch because that's her job. But she's no longer running through her notes the way that she had planned to. She was able to move with what was happening, to flex and flow. And she could then at times, somebody say, oh, we need to know about this. And she could go to what she had prepared and walk them through it. Okay. So you see how she was able to give up control and able to be in the moment with the people who she's with and not just try to get them to fit into what she thinks she has to have done in order for her to keep security for herself. She was able to say, oh, I've got more emotional bandwidth to me than I realized. Cool. Let me know how that one's landing for you. So then there's another part of here. How do I practice staying with the moment and trusting that less is more? Oh, yeah. How do I practice? Well, I think what I've been sharing, I'm hoping that that's landing for you. Please let me know. Let me know if I'm on track with your questions around public speaking, practicing the power of silence. There's a lot of little adjustments you can do in your daily interactions. So just start with the awareness of when I walk into a room and I'm looking at people and assessing what's happening here. Just be aware of when I would normally want to talk and just practice not talking then. Practice saying something and then being quiet for a moment and seeing how people respond. That silence is it's like going into the ice water. It's like being with the fear. So it's so cool. I love your questions because what you're letting me know is that you have lots of opportunity every day that you can practice saying something and then closing your mouth and feeling the discomfort and seeing how what you just said lands. You could do this a lot. This is really encouraging. Oh, good. Thank you. Thanks for that affirmation. See, right there, I'm wanting affirmation. I'm feeling scared if what I'm saying is landing for you. And so I used that anxiety. I paid attention to it. I was like, I'm starting to feel afraid. Am I really addressing what the question was? And then I checked in with you on it. I could believe me, I could talk like all day. I could talk myself to sleep about emotional intelligence and ice water and yada, yada, yada. I could do that. But I'm paying attention to my fear and saying, okay, what's that an indicator of? Well, I want to check back in with this person who's asking these fantastic questions. So I want to see if this is landing well for them. So thanks so much for your questions there. That's good stuff. Now we're coming up on the end of our time here. So I want to share a couple resources with you. You are welcome to check out my YouTube page, my YouTube account, whatever it is. It is the YouTube algorithms would definitely say that I have ADHD, and they would be correct. So I say that to say that there's a lot of different kinds of things on there. It's all focused around emotional intelligence, self-awareness, developing yourself. That's the driving theme in everything that I put out on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. That's the driving force, but it's going to look like different things. So on YouTube, you'll see some meditation things, some ASMR things, but I also have recorded webinars there, and a couple of them that are more structured, and my students listen to those as they're integrating into classes that I teach. So you're welcome to check those out. There's one that I think would be a great starting point is personality styles. Oh, there's like, everybody has a personality assessment thing. So what I can say about this one is it's short, and the point of it is to quickly give your assessment so you can see what your language is in the personality world, and then to quickly identify other personality styles. That's the real key is, this is how I process information. This is how I process things socially. I think this other person processes things in one of these other ways. Cool. I know how to speak that language. I know it's going to be uncomfortable. We're talking about being with fear, but I'm going to style shift. I'm going to move out of my comfort zone a little bit and communicate in a way that I think they're going to hear better. They're going to be more receptive to what I just said. So that's the point of it. I think anyway, enough said about that. So check that out. That's Connect and Thrive. Quick assessment and a 10-minute video will get you through that quickly. And then you can search around on there and find some of my other videos. Well, I am going to start wrapping up here unless there's any more questions. If anybody has a question that you want in closing, again, you could ask something from a completely different zone of career. You could ask about interviewing. You could ask about just being happy in what you do. You could ask about the purpose that you see for yourself in your career. Anything like that. Now's your chance. Otherwise, I will be back here next week. Okay, everybody. Well, thank you for joining in. Thank you very much for those fantastic questions. I had a lot of fun with those. And until next time, take care, everybody.